Welcome everyone to this UPrera webinar today on bridging research and practice, which we conduct on the occasion of the launch of the new transfer journal, Corporate Communication Review. This journal is a non-for-profit initiative which was launched and funded by the Academic Society for Management and Communication in collaboration with UPrera and also in collaboration with the European Association of Communication Directors, the EACD, and the Institute for Public Relations, IPR. And in this webinar, you will hear from the editors, contributors, and partners of Corporate Communication Review on how academic research can support and inspire communication practice. So first, let me introduce the speakers in, alphabetical order. I'll do it. So I'll start with Jesper Falkheimer. He is a professor at Lund University and most important for us here, he is president of UPrera. And he's also editor-in-chief of the Journal of Communication Management, an academic journal, which most of you know. And he's an editorial board member of Corporate Communication Review, the new transfer journal. Then Yan Yin, she is a professor at the University of Georgia. And there she co-founded and directs the Crisis Communication Think Tank. And in this first issue of Corporate Communication Review, Jan co-authored an article on crisis communication readiness. Then I will introduce Laurent Topo. He hasn't joined us yet, but hopefully he will, because he's our practitioner on the panel and he heads communications and public affairs at Ascendi, which is a leader in hotel investment and operations. And Laurent also has extensive experience in marketing for leading brands like Heineken and Coca-Cola. And he's on the editorial board of Corporate Communication Review. Then there's Michelle Vloka, and she is the managing editor of Corporate Communication Review and a research fellow at Leipzig University in Germany. Then there is Ansgar Zerfas. He is professor at Leipzig University and an editorial board member of Corporate Communication Review and an executive board member at the Academic Society for Management and Communication. And finally, I can introduce myself. My name is Sabine Einwiller, and I'm a professor at the University of Vienna and also on the editorial board of Corporate Communication Review. And I'm also on the board of UPrera and on the board of the Academic Society for Management and Communication. But first now I want to hand it over to Jesper Falkheimer, who I already introduced, but he's the president of UPrera and also wants to welcome everybody.
Thank you very much, Sabina, and a second and very warm welcome to this webinar about theory and practice, launching this new amazing magazine, Corporate Communication Review. First, I just want to say some short words about EUPrera, which is the platform for this webinar. EUPrera is, as some of you out there probably already know, an association for research and education in public relations and strategic communication, with a long history and around 500 members from over 40 countries, mainly in Europe, but also from outside of Europe. The focus on practice and theory is actually at the heart of EUPrera. Public relations and strategic communication, once upon a time, was practice, and it still is. And then came research, and there is a long history of collaboration between EUPrera researchers, scholars, and practitioners. So this is a really, really important topic for us. We have a lot of activities that is coordinated and supported by EUPrera. Every year we have networks, projects, webinars such as this, and other activities. But probably the main event every year is the annual Congress that took place in Bucharest last year. And before that, we were in Prague, and before that, we were in Vienna. But this year, in September, we will arrange the Congress in Lund by my university, Lund University in Sweden. And it happens to be that the theme of this year's Congress is the interface between academia and practice, which works obviously very well with the launch of this journal. I will tell you a little bit more about the Congress maybe a little bit later, but from now I just want to say welcome also to this webinar and leave the floor to the next speaker, which I think is Sabine. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesper, for the introduction in the name of your prayer. Ansgar, the webinar is on the launch of the new Transfer magazine, Corporate Communication Review. And this was initiated by the Academic Society for Management and Communication. Can you please tell us what is the Academic Society? Who is it? And what is its mission and why the journal?
Yes, of course. 15 years ago, we started the Academic Society for Management and Communication as a non-profit think tank in the German-speaking countries. Nowadays, it's supported by 5 universities, more than 15 corporations, and always on the top level. So we have chief communication officers in this group. And what we do is, on the one hand, funding and stimulating research and innovation on corporate communications. Secondly, clearly being a network on that level to really identify relevant topics. And thirdly, it's really about knowledge transfer. So we have a long tradition history of really running different formats of bringing practitioners, leaders, and their teams together. And based on that, we started the initiative and also funded the first issues of this new journal to really bring out a really new platform, not only on a regional level, but really from the start on a global level to collect interesting research, but make it accessible to leaders and their teams in the practice.
Michelle, who is the editor, so I would like to ask her next and bring her on stage. Michelle, can you please give us a glimpse into the first issue? Yes, and I already see the slides. Great.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I don't know, maybe you've already got the chance to have a look at the PDF. We launched the first issue last week. I also have like a print issue here. In case you're going to visit the Upera, you will also be able to pick one print copy there. I just wanted to quickly introduce to you what the magazine is actually about. We're planning on publishing an issue twice a year. And every issue will have like a focus topic. For the first issue, it was digital communication. And our idea is to have one article which goes a little bit more in depth on this topic, to have like state-of-the-art overview and to have a little bit more detail on it, but then also a couple of more articles presenting current research on this topic. And also each issue will have case studies. For the first issue, I was able to interview 3 CCOs from SAP, Clariant, and Goodyear, and we talked about their AI practice. So this is something we will keep on continuing with each issue. And generally, we will have, of course, further articles. Our main goal is to have a broad range of interesting current research projects or outcomes, which we like to share with everyone. In this case, we have a couple of articles on crisis, on strategic positioning directions. So to have a good overview. And also, each issue will have book recommendation and study highlights. And with study highlights, we're trying to provide more information also on topics outside of communications. So we're trying to highlight studies, for instance, from media and journalism, from technology, or also economics. And for the first issue, we published all articles at once. And maybe it's also interesting to know that for the current issue, we're planning on publishing all articles as soon as they're available. And then we bring all articles together, like I said before, twice a year in one issue. And then also all articles will get a DOE to make really sure that it's open access and always like accessible. That's about the content. And I have a further slide to show you our idea, or how we try to make it like really relevant and high quality. We have a great editorial board, and some of them are also here today, so we can talk to them a little bit more later on. But also to show you that we're really trying to connect the academic and the practice side. So we have CCOs here, we have professors represented in the editorial board, and also networkers, to really trying our best to have an insight into relevant, up-to-date, and interesting research studies.
Great. Thank you very much, Michelle, for giving us a glimpse into the journal and also the editorial board. So next, actually, I would like to invite everybody here on the stage. Oh, excellent. There's Laurent. So wonderful, because yeah, the first question here in our panel discussion actually goes to Laurent, because well, you're the practitioner, and the journal is, well, it's supposed to bridge academia and practice and bring research closer to practitioners. And my first question to you is, well, what do you expect to find in such a transfer journal? We just heard from Michelle what's in it and what the concept is, but what are your expectations?
Well, hi everyone, and thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a bit impressive because I'm the only practitioner. So, so first of all, I'd like to say that this is fantastic to have such an initiative, but we have to make sure that indeed this can be leveraged within our organizations, and that this is providing the content we can be interested in. So, of course, I look for some very forward-looking perspectives, case studies, everything which could be related to the current topic we can have now in our day-to-day challenges, like AI, social media, the way you can build reputation, and so on. But what I expect probably most, and I'm sorry because I'm not going to give a concrete idea, is to be surprised. I think that's the role of such a review, is really to bring the theme or the topic you were not expected. And as everyone, I am very busy in my current role. I'm probably a little bit lazy as well, so I don't take enough time to explore and learn about more new trends, or go deeper in some very specific communication topics. So I also expect the review, yes, to open my mind a little bit and bring me to those new borders.
Well, maybe second question to Michelle. We just heard from you the concept, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. What makes corporate communication review really different? Well, maybe also from traditional academic journals, and what is attractive about it for practitioners like Laurent, but also maybe also for researchers?
Yeah, it was really interesting because Laura just said, I'm being lazy. And I think this is the main point we're trying to do. We're trying to make the content as accessible as possible, like snackable content, easy to grasp. We try to find inspiring new content, and yeah, most importantly, that it's really relevant for practice, that we always try to incorporate recommendations for practitioners to not only present the content, but to actually say, okay, why is this important? What can you do with this content? And yeah, make it as accessible as possible. And I think this is the main difference to academic journals, which can be quite lengthy and complicated written. And for me as an editor, it's also important to have the articles grounded in theory, to have a glimpse into the methodology, but to still keep it like really short and comprehensible. And in case anyone wants to have more information, it will be always the opportunity to see, okay, this is where I can keep on reading and find more information. But in general, like that everything is presented at once in an easy way. And for researchers, of course, it's a great opportunity to present their research a broader audience, because I think, I mean, I'm a researcher myself, and I've written a dissertation. I don't think my dissertation has read anyone besides my professors. So sometimes it can be really hard to get it out there and to reach the target audience. And we're trying with this magazine to give researchers a platform to make them known if when they're publishing, or if when they're researching something which they think, this can be really interesting for practice. That's to try to give them a platform to be able to do so.
Okay, actually, my next question is to Laurent. From your experience, what for you do you think are the main obstacles that prevent academic knowledge from being used in practice? And maybe you have an idea how to overcome these obstacles.
Yes or no? Maybe. Well, first of all, you can see I've got gray hair, so I've got a little bit of experience, and I mean experience in looking at those academic content and see how we can introduce them in the corporate world and try to leverage those key learnings. And if you had asked me this question, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, I would have said language. Language is the main obstacle, but this is no longer the case, because we know that now our teams are able to translate any kind of content in the language they want. So I would say that one of the first, if not obstacle, but maybe competitor, is AI. Because indeed, AI can be a great, let's say, friend for translation, for instance, or just to summarize some big contents. But in this way, this is an obstacle, because I can see people in my team asking ChatGPT or other AI tools to either do the search for them, to provide sometimes not advice, but content, and to summarize some of the academic articles they can get. And I think this is exactly the opposite of what you should do, is to really first take it, think it on your personal side, to make sure you're able to really understand and to, as I said earlier, open your mind and consider new perspectives. And I think there is a second obstacle, which is the not invented here. I've been working in global organizations for quite a long time. I know that this is particular in France, but not only. Usually you prefer content which comes from either your area of expertise, your country, or I would say your cultural landscape. So this is something we have to overcome as well. So regarding solutions, I think it's easier for me to bring issues, but I do believe that communication is part of the answer. I mean, communication within your communication teams. Make sure you can save some time to build your own internal academy, to invite, if not researcher, because it's time consuming, but to invite those articles in your meetings, and to make sure that you make your people reflect on it. And if they do so, then this content will progressively become not their content, but something they are familiar with, and they will try to work on it a little bit more. Did I answer your question, Sabine? Or because
yes, thank you very much. And I'm actually I'm looking at Jesper, because he has extensive experience also with academia, practice, collaborations, also with obstacles. So Jesper, what are obstacles from your point of view?
Yeah, thank you very much for your comments, Laurent. I think they were really wise. From an academic standpoint, I guess we have so many obstacles that we could speak for an hour about them, but I won't. But I can mention three, which I think are pretty well defined. But from an overall perspective, of course, the role of universities is to educate and to do research, but also to collaborate and to communicate research and knowledge with the surrounding society. I guess that's the same thing for all universities out there, even if you're in Sweden or in the other part of the world. But it is a fact that the priorities are usually not on collaboration with external actors or with surrounding society. So I think that the first obstacle, I guess, is the merit system at universities, which we know who work there that it's very much focused on academic publishing and on research and doing your teaching and so on. So to do an academic career, external collaboration has traditionally not been prioritized, I would say. On the other hand side, this is changing. I can only talk from my own university side, but at Lund University, I know this is highlighted. I think it's the same thing in other parts of the world. So external collaboration is getting more attention, and university management and rectors and so on, they speak more about this and they understand how important it is. Especially if you look at all the wicked problems in our society, and of course also on organizational issues out there. So the merit system would be the first obstacle, but I also think that it can be overcome. We did, thanks to academic society of leadership and communication and other partners. The second obstacle, I think, would be time. That's more a concrete obstacle from an academic standpoint, because research usually takes time, while I think corporations and so on, they want usually rather quick answers, and they want results immediately that can benefit their operations and so on. This might not be the biggest obstacle, but I do think that there is a need of getting to know each other when it comes to corporations and universities and the different rhythms of these systems and so on. Researchers can be a little bit faster. We can communicate during the research process, while maybe corporate actors can also benefit from sometimes digging deeper into knowledge and so on. And then finally, the third obstacle, I think, would be arenas, meeting points. Since we live, I guess, somehow in different worlds mainly, and there is a need of arenas where we can meet together. And I think that this corporate communication review is an excellent example of that. The editorial board is a mix of global corporate communication leaders and academics and people that are in between. But I do think that we lack, at least from my experience, usually those arenas and meeting points and so on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let me now ask Ansgar and then Jan, because you're actually like doing this transfer, and I know with the academic society of which I'm also part, and like, there is, I mean, you're trying to set the stage, bringing practitioners, academics together. Jan's doing that as well. So maybe Ansgar first. What are formats, I mean, aside from, of course, this new transfer journal, I mean, to kind of, build platforms, bringing people together, exchange knowledge, what are good platforms?
There are many, obviously, as already mentioned, there are congresses on the side of practitioners. We have the upcoming ESCD Congress. We have on European level, we have national formats where also on a certain level, I would say, it's not only about the team members, as Roy mentioned, we need to stimulate reflection, and it's also based on leadership. So I think it needs leaders who stimulate themselves and their team members, also not just to look at the practical solutions, but at stuff which is forward-looking. And we all know that corp comms and corp comm departments need to reinvent themselves in these times, and that had always been the time. So we need, I think, meeting points. That's a practical issue, traveling around that. We also need probably collaboration. What we do a lot based on our networks, really on a very concrete level. Simply researchers inviting communication leaders to their classes to give just an overview to stimulate students. This might be a starting point for smaller research projects like a thesis or so, and these can be much more focused, also much more based on one company, because it's really might be combined for an internship. And I think once we have these contact points, we have these networks, then in my experience, it's also easier to find more concrete ways to collaborate, not always with the same company. Not every company has a specific issue at the same time. And also you need larger networks. So when we started here in Germany, it's a large country like France or so, but obviously it's a regional thing. You know, obviously everybody knows the top companies in the region, but not all professors have the same capacities or knowledge in each field. So by building here, in our case, a network across the German-speaking countries, obviously on both sides, both on the practitioner side and on the academic side, we simply have more opportunities to collaborate. And that's more difficult if you're just in one region or so, because naturally the match is more difficult. And on the other hand, a global network, we all know that, at least on the academic side, we have global networks. On the practitioner side, also regional global networks. Yeah, you might know people, but in practice, it doesn't work out if you want to collaborate with a researcher in another continent. That's simply not manageable in most ways. So I think it has to be a mix. But the most important thing, know each other.
Yeah, Jan, this is, I mean, what you are also trying to do with your crisis communication think tank at the University of Georgia, which is actually, as far as I understand, I mean, a collaboration really between academia and practice. What are your goals and how are you going about?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question, Sabina. And I totally agree with what Ansgar mentioned earlier. Be concrete, stay focused, and know the people, right? So what we started back in 2018, when we founded the think tank at University of Georgia, we started with find the right people, meaning scholar practitioner, really knowing the knowledge from both, we call that best of both worlds. And then that model, after several years running, having documented success, then we venturing out to Europe. And most recently, in the past May, we established our Asia hub, right? Starting with good people, because as we know, let's face it, not everybody in academia or in practice having the time or the energy or the passion or the curiousness to want to work with each other, building something concrete, building value, share the value, and co-creating the output that bring to the industry, bring to the classroom, bring to the research lab, and cross-institutional, whatever format that is, a collaboration model. So start with good people, really build that fellowship. So that's why, as example, for our think tank members and network co-partners around the world, we meet once a year in the US and internationally in Europe, and also we'll start doing Asia-focused symposium. So that in-person collaboration, fellowship building is essential. Although our year-round collaboration, may that be a special issue of a journal, may that be a webinar, may that be networking opportunities, may that be writing a book together, that happens throughout the year. But that, knowing the people, stay focused, making sure that every meeting is meaningful, every output is co-created. For instance, our practitioner member, they will share with us what we should be studying. And then as scholars, we provide, hey, here are different menus. Here's the ways that given your time, given your preference, there's how we and our corporate partner, with our nonprofit partner, with our government agency partners, here's the ways that we can create that value to your team and to something that you can build together with us. And then another collaboration or goal of us is that to continue building collaboration is interdisciplinary collaboration. For example, as we know, crisis management, well, it is part of communication function. It's also beyond. So from a crisis comm perspective, what's lacking in a lot of our research and dissemination transfer experience is that there's a lack of true dialogue or cross-learning between communications team and other teams, such as legal, risk management, and others. So one of the readiness model focus, well, it's also part of the feature in the article in the first issue of Corporate Communication Review, is the 3 pillars of readiness. By the way, readiness as a term, as a focus, is actually voiced by a crisis communication think tank member, practitioner member, several years ago. So we believe that readiness is built upon preparedness and resilience, but beyond that. right? So what we argue, or based upon our conversation with practitioners, is that it takes not just communications team, takes the cross team learning. We call that multi-level advocacy. So communications team, legal team, risk management, finance, product development. So before a crisis materializes into real crises, we need to together cross-learning, identifying what are the globally sticky crisis challenges. Those are global issues, critical, not going away. To help our organizations to be ahead of the game, see around the corner, is together, let's build a system to help us understanding or trying to see around the corner, identifying challenges, risk, issues, so we can be as strategic, as proactive as possible. And then at the core of readiness is the mindset, right? How can we stay adaptable to challenges? How can we adapt? How can we adapt to AI? How can we adapt, including how do we collaborate with AI, bring AI as a collaborator into our crisis management team, and then truly understand and appreciate everything we do here. Corporate communication, crisis management, risk management is a dynamic process, right? So I think that is something that we've been working really hard. And tie back to what Jasper shared earlier, like the challenges, right? Funding, time, and so on and so forth. We're all familiar with in US, in Europe, and in Asia. What we found is really helpful is internally in our institution, start building that cross-campus collaboration team. In our case, we're very thankful that besides Grady College, where's my home college, besides communication and media, we also build really strong collaboration team with College of Business, with College of Public Health, and also with our School of Public and International Affairs. I think that alignment between leadership in different colleges is supporting us building that collaboration. When we go out, meeting with our practitioner scholars, and we go out doing trainings and workshops, so they are always on board together. I think that is something we find is really valuable and helping us building and strengthening what we do together moving forward.
Yeah, Laurent, how does that sound to you? Or what are the questions you would like to see addressed, or how, did you get anything out of that now? I mean, where you said, okay, that sounds good to me.
Of course, I've got some ideas. I could say at first, well, I want to learn more about AI, crisis management, content production, everything which is related to communication skills. But I think we've got quite a lot of opportunities to get this information in so many places. So of course we need it in such a review, but this is not the end of the game. And you just said, Jan, we miss a true dialogue between communication teams and other teams. And I believe this is 100% true. And this is something I've experienced in all the organizations I've worked in. And as communication professionals, we're used to developing the reputation of our company or our brand. And in many cases, we miss an opportunity. This is our own reputation. And if you really want to deliver on your business trajectory, and if you want to do your job very well, you need to be perceived as a strategic partner in the organization, and you need to showcase a little bit what you do and how you contribute to the business success. And this is something we miss. And in this way, when you read the latest and first issue of the review, I'm very happy with it, because there is already some content related to this key topic. There is an article, I think, Ansgar, you are one of the contributors on that one, which is about why communication departments need to enhance their positioning. And for me, this is part of the topic. We really have to think about our strategic positioning, the narrative we want to build around it. So not the company narrative, but our communication narrative, and how we will tell the story. Please do not misunderstand me. The purpose is not to be a star and to really showcase what you do every day, but to make sure you do it enough for the other functions to really consider your job, your role, and the way you will impact. And if you do so, you will be even more efficient in your role. So just sorry, maybe I was a little bit long, but yes, I'm expecting some content related to new trends, AI, the way PR are evolving, how to address specific topics in a crisis management situation, how you will evolve, how your relationship with journalists and influencers will evolve. But in addition to that, I think this is important, our function reflects on its role and its positioning and the way it showcases its return on investment internally.
Mm. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Jesper or Ansgar,
probably just to comment on that, I think that's an interesting point. It's not just a topic, but I also think, as Jesper mentioned, for researchers, it's not only about writing a smaller article or a shorter article. It's also about finding the right language to not to be not too operational. You know, we cannot help you on all details. But on the one hand, I think, Laura, you said it's about reflecting really new stuff. And we have, which I noticed that we have also said, what are some interesting studies from other fields? Just have a link. But if you look into our own field, I think it's also about presenting it in a certain way that helps you also, as you mentioned, to present yourself. And I think here, specifically PR, strategic communication, is really not good, because if you look at management studies, my background is in business management, there's a long tradition of having theories, translating theories. If you look at Harvard, much stuff has simply been, it's academic research, but they have published a book with case studies, they have transferred it to a consultancy, and they pushed it around the world. So stuff like scorecards, like whatever, even reputation management, the whole idea of reputation management, reputation measurement from Frontier, that's probably the only example where something from communication has been pushed in the same way from academia to the practice, including the business model of an institute that tries to measure it about. And business is doing that all the time. And I think communication researchers traditionally are simply not good in that. But probably by having these collaborations, also building these platforms, hopefully we can also guide also younger researchers to go this way, because I think also in our field, there's a lot to do. And it's also about bringing it to practice, not only on a very operational level, but really on a strategic level. And that means you have to speak the language of business and of large organizations. And this is why I would totally support Laura. It's not only a topic, it's also a way how we present our research, and we have to help people to do that.
Maybe I can add to that. I totally agree, but I also think that considering what you said in the beginning, Laurent, that you want surprises, you want something new, innovations and so on. I also guess that there is also a role for academics in relationship to big organizations, corporations, and governmental organizations to bring some critical thinking into the box, which doesn't mean that you have to be criticizing everything that is happening in a corporation, but I guess also for corporation, it can be very beneficial to get an outside voice that analyze some specific topic and do it from a more independent position, focusing more on early research and on empirical methods than on aligning with what is already happening. But this is at least the experience I have myself working also closer with corporations. Sometimes I experience that they kind of enjoy being surprised or being also a little bit provoked sometimes also with other perspectives to think new thoughts and so on. So I guess that's also an important role. And just to finish this, we can also turn it the other way around and say that I think also academics need to be provoked by corporations and by what's happening in the empirical reality. So that's what we need from you, of course, because it's easy to sit inside the university and say things, but when you get in contact with practitioners and leaders like you usually realize that there is a lot of knowledge that we also need to get into our world, so to speak. So it's an interaction thing, not like one actor just transferring to another one, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. I mean, Jan, is this what you're experiencing too? Because in your think tank, there's practitioners. And so do you challenge each other, or is there like surprising inputs from both sides?
Yeah. Yes, both sides constantly, and that's the value we provide. And so as examples, when we meet in the US and also in Europe, in Amsterdam, so we have our all day from in the US 8 to 5, in Europe we do like 9 to 5. So the entire program is really, every program we have different sessions, it's a conversation. Right, so we have our scholar practitioner in one room. We talk about, so what are the topics that are challenging all of us, regardless which sector, which industry, which part of the world, and then we start to kind of co-creating what can we contribute, what are the potential solutions or pathways that we can co-create, could innovate, and then for academias, our homework will be let's take it home and to teasing out and study and breaking down the bigger umbrella challenges piece by piece and report back, soliciting feedback and comments and critique from our practitioner members, partners. And this is really fun part. We do have, at least I can count probably 3 or 4 practitioner members in US and Europe. They want to co-write articles. For them, that's new, that's surprising, and that's fun. I still remember one of our practitioner members in US, and so she's a CCO and senior vice president of a major nonprofit organization in the US. So for him, one of the best part is he wrote a case study for a traditional academic journal special issue that for him, having that experience, being to our world, being challenged and seeing the value and see how his experience, his team's experience can contribute to academia, to students, to learning, to the classroom setting, to training. It was really, really, really rewarding and heartwarming to see that. So yes, 100% to what Jesper, Ansgar, and Lauren has been sharing with us.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question from the chat, so I would like to bring that up here. Fikayo Oyewole, he's asking, well, amid rising global political crises, how can corporate and crisis communication use research to bridge the gap between theory and practice? So, yeah, how you can use this research. So basically, I mean, the question we are asking here the whole time, maybe also, I don't know, maybe a question also for Laurent. I mean, is there a way you use the research and the theories, or you can for your maybe corporate and crisis, and maybe even in crisis communication, or it's just something you can draw on or you have drawn on?
For corporate communications, definitely. And I think there are some topics for which we miss the knowledge. So as practitioners, we do need to be fed with, yes, more in-depth learning, knowledge, and so on. I was just thinking, well, talking about crisis communications, by definition, when you're in the middle of a crisis, you have to deal with emergency. So maybe there is a way to do it, but I don't know how to do it, because if you are able to take a step back, think about your topic, see how you will address it, and maybe get some external information content to better manage it, maybe this is not a crisis, but you're much more dealing with an issue. So you don't know if you see the difference, but actually, I'd like to ask these questions to you all, because for the moment, I don't think I'm able or capable to really, yes, make the bridge between a practitioner and a researcher in a real and important crisis situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's quite normal. Obviously, that's more about crisis preparation, but I think you make an interesting point. And we also did some research last year about when managers in communication learn. I think one main obstacle is that communication is indeed a function where also the leaders are really normally 24/7, not only in a crisis, on the stage. You have to consult, advise your CEO. There are some upcoming staff, and that's really a difference in this profession. If if you compare yourself with somebody in HR, for example, you always have to invent your function or your team anew. But I think even on leadership level, communicators are much more driven by day-to-day business. And as you mentioned, Laurent, I think it's not only about crisis everywhere in all fields. If you have to do a merger or whatever, if you have a takeover, then you also cannot stop then to talk about how to do change communication or something like that. So I think the only way is really to save time and also resources, also about resources, obviously, to really steadily look for fields of improvement. So to reinvent your own team or organization in comms anew, and not only do it when it really comes up, because if it comes up, you have to do it, or you have to call for an advisor, for a consultant, but you cannot really do it for yourself or call for an academic in that field. It's more ambitious how much time you really invest to bring yourself and your team forward. And I know it's really difficult also working in practice for some years. I think communication is really different to colleagues which I know from other fields who also find these problems, but not all the time. So I don't have a solution here. I think the only solution is really to always invest some time into rethinking, future-proofing your organization.
Yeah.
And it's easier said than done, obviously. We all know that, especially in times where resources are scarce and communication departments have never been in the situation of that they had too much time and money. That was always a problem and will probably never change.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting because Jan, with your group, you're actually focusing on the readiness, so actually preparing. So it's not, So I guess this is an important focus too. Yeah. Actually, I'm looking at the time a bit. So I'm looking at the time a bit because I also want to hear from Michelle once more about the journal, because maybe you listeners and here you ask yourself, so how are these articles actually selected, or how do you make the choice, and what is selected? So how do you go about? Maybe Michelle can give us some insights into like how you find the contributions, and how do you do that?
Yeah, we're having a database which trying to update it like as best as possible. We're looking at conference proceedings in all relevant journals, talking about like monitoring academics. And the plan is to have an editorial board meeting twice a year where we discuss, okay, what are the needs, what are the main issues, what are the topics they feel like, okay, this we should cover in the next issue. And we heard it from the others a little bit, what we're trying to look for. We look for topics which are inspiring. There was a word earlier. We're trying to find or pick topics which are really relevant, like useful, not like unspecific or like abstract, but which we feel like, okay, this is something they can really use. There are so many research which is so interesting. Sometimes it can be a case study which is like really specific for one country, which might be also like really nice and good. But our point or our focus is to make it relevant, so that, like I said before, that it's really useful. So it's a process. So I always love to get in touch also with researchers and practitioners. So if you have like comments or ideas, or you can always just write me an email or text me on LinkedIn. So really try to get in touch with each other.
Yeah, wonderful. So I also know that you try to also help the authors a bit. To really get the implications out of the article. Yes, I think here's some questions. Patrick McKeon, the gap is built in capacity building inside PR business rather than when the PR business is meeting their clients, because in the crisis, or this is on the crisis topic, or in the field, the practitioner, when under pressure, will revert to the embedded baseline, and the academic thinking is not embedded there. Exactly. So I think this is a good point. Yeah. And so it's probably about how to embed the academic thinking, into the baseline of the practitioner. Absolutely. So further, I think some topic for further research. Thank you for that comment.
But obviously, that's as you mentioned, as Patrick mentioned, it's a time issue, because we all know that our own knowledge is built over time. So our framework, how we look at the world as academics and practitioners, develops over time. So if you challenge that, it's always tricky. It takes time. It's inspiring, but it's also a bit tricky. Normally you rely on what you know. And I think that's true for practitioners as well as for academics, because as Jesper mentioned, in the academic world, we also have our own frameworks and knowledge how to look at the world. And at the moment, everything's changing about AI, how to do research, how to do practice. But we all know how the old world lives. And it has been before 10 or 20 years ago. Also, our predecessors had their own way of looking at PR or at businesses. And so I think it's normal to do that. And we always have to stimulate that and try to work on that. But it's also not realistic that it will change in a few months, because it will take always people to experience that and to go forward.
Mm.
I guess one could also, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat, but yes, Jesper, please.
It's a short note. I also think that if you look at the communication industry from a historical perspective, it's still a rather young industry. I mean, it has reached the high levels in many organizations, but it's still challenged. It's still under development, I would say. I guess all professions are, and so on, or semi-professions. But I think there is a need for increased knowledge building in this area if you compare to other close related fields. I just wanted to add that. So I think we're still a young area, a discipline, whatever.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Actually, here's also a comment by Anke Anton here in the chat also. Well, she says, well, in academia, of course, I mean, we have to focus on exposing students to the knowledge and insights, and the question is now whether there's a mechanism like in industry also to have this knowledge transfer from more senior level practitioners to the junior level practitioners. So I don't know, I guess, Laurent, this would also be a question. I mean, how do you bring your knowledge to your juniors, or also maybe even now starting with the journal, I guess giving people access or distributing it is probably a good first step to make it known. Actually, since we are almost over, I mean, time is flying when you're having fun. So we have just a few minutes left, and I would like to give the last part to Jesper, because we are having the Congress in September, and as Jesper already mentioned, it's on the theme exactly on bridging academia and practice. Maybe you can give us a little sneak peek. So is there what may practitioners also learn there, or is there some formats or so at the Congress?
Yeah, I can say something short about this. The Congress is in the end of September, as I mentioned before, in Lund, and you're all welcome to register from June on. It's mainly an academic conference, of course, but there are also practitioners around. And since the main topic is about this interface, we will have one panel together with the AACD, European Association of Communication Directors, also a partner to CCR, and we also have two keynotes, which are actually relevant here because they are given by two speakers who are in between, you could say. I mean, Stephen Waddington, also member of our editorial board, is one of them, and he is a very well-known and experienced practitioner. He's been also the chair of CIPR in the UK, but he's also writing a PhD now at Leeds Beckett University in this area. So he's going to talk a little bit about this experience he has. And then we also have Mette Refshauge, who is the CCO of Maersk, a global shipping company, which I guess you know about. And she also has a foot in academia. She's written a book together with a colleague about strategic communication for practice and so on. So we look forward to this Congress, and I think it will be a good meeting point. And all attendees will get a printed magazine of Corporate Communication Review, I promise. So you're all welcome. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jesper, for this little sneak peek. And thank you, Michelle, Ansgar, Laurent, Jan, Jesper, for joining us today here in this webinar. And thanks to all the listeners here in the webinar right now, live, and also the ones who will listen to the recording. And we hope to maybe see you at the Congress or see you at another webinar, another maybe bridging event between academia and practice. And then let's keep that discussion going and the knowledge flowing between academia and practice. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.